Hello and welcome to another interesting edition of Hot Seats right here on Ogun State Television. My name is Moses Ojewumi. Interestingly, we brought the seats to Abeokuta Club this morning. Founded in 1978, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board is the entrance examination board for tertiary level institutions which conduct unified tertiary matriculation exams for prospective undergraduates. And in recent times, particularly since the appointment of the current registrar, this board has recorded some reforms. So this morning, I have with me the JAMB registrar, Professor Is-haq Oloyede. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, quickly, let's get to see his profile. And when I'm back, we'll ease the interview segments of the program. Many thanks for staying with us. If you just joined us, you're watching Hot Seats on Ogun State Television, and my guest this morning is the JAMB registrar. I was a former Vice Chancellor, University of Ilorin, a professor of Islamic jurisprudence, Professor Is-haq Oloyede. Welcome to the program once again.
Thank you, my brother.
Now, let's go deep into it. Like I said in my introduction, that since your appointment in 2016 and your reappointment in 2021, we've seen some reforms in JAMB. But let's start with the pockets of complaints that trailed the 2022 UTME, which the power failure of biometric, capturing machines, and other forms of technical issues. So how are you planning to address this?
Thank you very much. It will not be true to say I've not had such complaints, but more often than not, they are hearsays. I don't hear this from parents, from students, from candidates. I hear it from parents. And I'm not a lawyer, but those who are lawyers, they are aware of the value of hearsay. Most of those who talk about power failure and so on, if there is power failure in the hall, they wouldn't be aware. If there were disconnection, they will not be there. People who have failed, they look for reasons for the failure. As far as I'm concerned, there are pockets of problems here and there. I'm not denying that. But when you hear parents who must explain why their children are failing, particularly those who have invested heavily in illicit procurement of questions for their wards, and they suddenly found that they have been duped, they must look for reasons for the failure. For me, issues might be there, and when there are issues, we will know. and we will rectify. On the 6th of August, there is going to be a mop-up exam. What do we call mop-up exam? Mop-up exam will be for those people who took examination in centers that were considered to have violated some basic ethics of examination. Those centers that we will classify that at such centers, mass cheating took place. Such centers, for this year, we have only 10 of them. And they are concentrated in about 5 towns: Aba, Onitsha, Ebute Metta in Lagos, Benin, and Asaba. These are the 5 towns that we were able to apprehend what happened, and we canceled the examination. But because there were some innocent candidates in those centers, you wouldn't just throw everything away. That's why we ask all of them to come back for a receipt. Then there are those who have these genuine technical problems. Where there are technical problems, all of them who have technical problems, they're about, across the country, 9,000 out of 1.9 million. So if we are talking of now 9,000, even if it is paper, pen, and pencil, the problem will be more than 9,000. You have just 9,000 of them, and we knew that there were problems with them, and we have rescheduled them for the examination. So, but when you hear people who are supposed to bury their heads in shame now coming out to say there were this, there were that, and so on. We had 750 CBT centers across the country, not owned by JAMB, but private and public institutions. We certified them. And out of these 750 CBT centers, you have about 50 of them malfunctioning. And those malfunctioning ones, we decided on what to do, and we are replacing biometric verification. Those who had biometric problem, they are not up to 10,000. And all these people, we bring them together to take another examination. But when you see people who are complaining, I always say bring the facts. And when they bring the facts, you will see that they had no, a father called me. Hi, you are in Abeokuta. I say yes. Hey, this is what happened. My child could, I said, let me talk to the child. The child said, I know that when we checked the results, this boy had misplaced his phone. He was apprehensive that he would fail. And the boy now scored 270. And the father said, when you said there were technical problems, you could not, because they were apprehensive. They wanted to know, to give reasons beforehand. And I now asked the boy, we will cancel this result unless you tell us the truth. He then told me that it was the father who told him that in order to include you among the are going to receive, tell them that there was examination, there were technical problems in your center. I just laugh at it. This is a boy, and I said, look, we are going to cancel this 270. Both father and son started begging. Some of these things are products of, I wouldn't know, people who are not ready to be responsible for their failure, and therefore they must pass the failure to others.
Well, Professor, like I said, pockets of complaints. But how does this make you feel that many of those that sat for this exam last year, are still at home? And those that just, of course, ASUU strike, and we can't even see an end in sight.
For ASUU strike?
Yes.
I'm not responsible for ASUU strike. And as far as it's like,
as a professor,
I believe that it's just like charging an agbero for overload. ASUU will continue. If ASUU wants to go on strike, and ASUU has the proprietors of their various institutions but my own duty is to conduct examination. But what I find out in public debate in Nigeria is that when people are talking, they are just talking from their own perspective alone. Universities polytechnics and so on that are on strike. They are not up to 50% of the institutions we have. All of them put together. They are not up to 50.
State universities,
call them, just give
federal
them any,
universities.
call them any label you have. They are not up to 50%. Are you going to say because some people are going on strike, we should paralyze the other 50%? Go and look at the number of universities in Nigeria. I'm not talking of the intake in terms of number of candidates. I'm talking of institutions. If you say federal, you are also not correct. Is Federal National Defense Academy is a degree award institution. Is it on strike? Is the Police Academy on strike? Is Nigerian Army University in Biu on strike? Are the over 50% of the universities who are private universities, are they on strike? Is Osun State University in Osogbo on strike? Is Kwara State University Malete on strike? So what we are saying is that people have the right to be on strike if they are aggrieved. But to say that the whole world should wait, should be tied down, while some people are having problems, is unfair to the system. We continue to go on. Those who had one problem or the other, not necessarily strike alone, they will join us as we go on. But for people to now superimpose their own worldview on others, it's just not there.
But Professor,
yes.
I mean, that does not take away the fact that quite a number of institutions now on strike. And I will also look at the intake. You know, many of these universities, they have large intake of students.
I agree with you. What you should do, get the vice chancellors and ask them of the institutions that are on strike. Me, I could be relevant when I was chairman, committee of vice chancellor, when I was vice chancellor. But now, I'm completely an Agberu in the process of transportation.
Are you not worried with
if I'm worried, I won't tell you. Because my work is not to be worried. I'm engaged to go and be conducting examination for candidates. If I get worried, what will happen to the candidates that were entrusted to me? If I'm worried, I will tell you off camera whether or not I am worried.
Okay, because I asked that you are a stakeholder in the education sector, and we decry the limited slots in our higher institutions. Yes. Now there's a backlog. Many of those that sat for the exam last year, they are still at home. This year, you just talked about more pop exam that will also take place. So that's what I'm saying, that it will get to a point where, I mean, I'm just looking at the system. That's my worry. Look,
there is no need for you to worry. Every institution will go at its own pace. Some institutions are still in 2019-2020 session. And if they come back from strike tomorrow and they say they want their candidate for 2020, whatever is left of their candidates will join them. There are those who are in 2021-2022 session. There are those who are already starting 2022-2023 session. Every institution will go at its own pace. And what I'm saying in effect is that the fact that somebody's house is on fire should not mean that all houses in the town should be on fire.
Well, many houses seem to be on fire, Professor.
My own position is that, yes, it's unfortunate that some institutions are disrupted, but they cannot. It's unfortunate, but I cannot be held responsible.
Let's talk about the benchmark that was set during a policy meeting that was held 21st July. Some will say a minimum or cutoff score for admission, but rather it's a benchmark. And for 2 years back, it was 160.
What is 160, for universities?
I'm talking about benchmark now. Now we're talking about 140.
Well, let me tell you. People, I don't know how to explain it. I just don't know. What do you call benchmark? What do you call cutoff? Even some people who say JAMB has decided on cutoff this year that it's going to be 140, it's going to be 150. I said, where? There were at least 100 journalists where the meeting took place. It was in the full camera coverage of the policy meeting. And ask those people that are, if you talk of any name in terms of those who are the checkers of the media in this country, they were there present.
But there's a benchmark.
And no, there was no benchmark. What people call benchmark are just issues affecting 10, 20 institutions. I will explain to you. There were even some people who talk about pass mark. There is no pass mark in JAMB. UTME is a ranking examination. UTME is a placement examination. When you were in primary school, they weren't giving you credit. They weren't say pass. They weren't say merit. They would say first, second, third, fourth, fifth, up to 48. Even if you score 80% and you score 48 in the class, your father would say you have not performed well because you are being rated within the class. You that you are number 40 in that class. If you had gone to another class, you can be number 7. So you are being rated according to your performance within that cohort. That is what is done in UTME. In UTME, there is no pass, there is no failure. We have, it's just like you going. I come back to your question. You are going to Lagos. Your car can only take 4 of your legitimate children, and you have 10 of them. What qualifies each of them to go into your car is being your biological child. It's not anything. But you can't carry the 10. And you now say, okay, I will examine 10 of you. The first 4 will go with me to Lagos. And you say, the question is this. 10 questions. One scored 9. Another one scored 4. Another one scored 2. Others scored 1 and 0. Then you want to pick the 4. Will you be a wise man if you now say my pass mark is 5? Therefore, number 9, you are the only one going with me. All of you, and you go with empty car. Because the purpose of that examination is not to determine their ability, but to rank them. So the wisest thing is you pick numbers 1 to 4. That is the examination that JAMB is conducting, that is called UTME. Many of you, some even talk, hey, why can't you bank the question? You have forgotten that there are those who don't even take examination. Direct entry candidates. They are a substantial part of this candidate. Don't take examination at all. Every year. So you are talking about something about which there is. When you now say cutoff, every institution in Nigeria, whether university, polytechnic, or colleges or college of education, determines the pass mark that it will take for UTME. Determines where to draw the line depending on those who applied that year. For medicine, for instance, you look at 500 who applied to you and you have a vacancy of 50. You now say, I draw my line here. That line may be at 300 over 400. You cannot come and say, I will take somebody on 200 because it's the rankings, the performance. That same institution next year, they may conduct their examination and the best, the first 50 may be, the highest may be 250 and the lowest, the number 50 may be 200. When you say bank what? Are you telling me that the person who scored 180 this year and you want to rank him next year, will be no more people scoring more than 180? Will he ever be given any chance? Because the purpose of the examination is to put all of them who are available for that year together, examine them, and rank them. So what will be the lowest of them depends on institution and depends on the cohort or the institution, your classmates, if I can use the word, determine where it will stop. If you have people who are very brilliant, you are in trouble. If you fall, unfortunately, among the dollars, you are going to shine, even if you are not that good. That is what UTME is. When people now talk of 120, 140, every institution will tell us before the policy meeting, this is my own score, 200. Ibadan says my score, or Pan-African University say my score is 220. It can never take 219, even after policy meeting. Even if they recommend, we will not take it, because 220 is your pass mark. You cannot take anybody less than 220. But everybody will now be looked at what they prescribe. The meeting would now say, let's look at the lower ones, those who are prescribing lower ones. Somebody says there are less than 10 universities. that say my own should be 80, my own should be 100, my own should be 120, my own should. And the policy meeting say, all of you, the 10 of you who are below 140, no, raise it up to 140. Do you get the point? When you are talking of cutoff, this cutoff only affects these 10 institutions. The man who says my own cutoff is 180 cannot pick 140. The one who says it's 190 cannot pick 140. It only affects those who are prescribed anything lower than that field. And when you now have the parent will come to you, that's why the fact that my child passed UTME, he had no admission. Who told you he had passed? There is no pass, there is no failure in a ranking examination. How I feel that we could get what do they call them? Psychometricians to educate people. My work is not to do your work. It's your work is to educate people. But even those of you who are to educate, many of you don't understand us. I don't know where the problem is coming
maybe because
from.
of the way it was. Because now you've said something that is quite profound, that institutions can now set
They have been setting.
Pass mark.
It has always been that they were the ones setting, even with my predecessor. The issue of cutoff mark only affects those people who choose below that figure. That no, we cannot take 100. Please, my brother, bring it up. If you don't have candidate, we will give you. Do you get the point? So anybody above that had already fixed his own. You must meet, you can't score 140 or 180 and you now go to University of Obafemi Awolowo University or ABU. I say the cutoff for pass mark as decided by JAMB is 140. For who? The pass mark only affect those who had either to fix a mark that is lower than that. Again, this pass mark that you are talking about is even a non-issue because only very, very few universities depend on that alone. If you want to go to NDA, for instance, or you want to go to police college, Wudil, or army, you apart from taking that, which is 50%, UTME is 50% of your examination. And if you are coming to direct entry, your score in A level, you know those people is 50% of your score. They will now set you another question, another interview, which carry 20. They will also conduct physical exercise, which carry another 20. And they had something else for 10. All these will be added together to now rank the candidate, re-rank them. That's why you want to go to University of Lagos because it's closer to you. So the closest people to a dead person is the person who is dying. So if you apply to University of Lagos, and at the University of Lagos, you want to apply, you now say, I scored 300 over 400 in UTME. What have you scored? That does not ensure admission. Because before they rank you on what we call CAPS, University of Lagos will conduct its own post-UTME for you. And what you score there, they will place it on 30%. Wait, WAEC, your 300 score at the exam SSCE is carrying 20%. The post-UTME is carrying 30%. That is, they will examine, do you have A1 or C6 and rank it. It's after they add all these together that they now come to the final figure for ranking you on CAPS. And when you now go to CAPS, the man who scored 300 may become number 350. That it may not even be taken at all because other factors have been brought to it. The examination that you make noise about, you call UTME, is not what qualified a candidate to the university. Some are even saying standards are falling. Standards are falling. Look, myself, my brother, for SSCE, how many exams do you take? If you want to study, you take biology, and you say you have C6 in biology at the secondary school level, NECO or WAEC exam. Do you know how many exams you have taken? Definitely not less than 10. You know, for 3 years from SS1 to SS3, you are taking examination, first term, second term. They add all together in biology. and it's 40% of the final exam. Even the 60 that you are going to call the final exam, you have paper 1, you have paper 2, and then you have practical. All these will be added together before it can be said that you have a C6 or A1.
Yeah. Well,
if you take all this examination, those of us who are in the field, we will tell you that that's what we call achievement test. That is a test you conduct for somebody so many times, and you add them together. That represent the ability of that person. But the UTME, you are coming from Lagos to come and take your examination in Agege. There was traffic. Your wife quarreled with you at home, and you came and you took the exam 2 hours. And you want us to bank that as representing your ability. Those who are in the field of assessment will tell you that examination is not valid. The examination that you can record for somebody as truly representing his ability is not one chance exam. So that's why you have so many obviously illiterate people that are talking about education.
Well, Professor,
yes.
I think you've made it clearer now, because I can remember, when I sat for this exam about 14 years ago, it used to, the line was 200. So when people had 140, that's why they were making reference to falling, the falling standard. But my stats here that out of the 1.7 million candidates that sat for the examination, only 378,639 scored above 200.
What does that tell you? I've already answered that question, because it's a ranking examination. Even there are courses that you don't even, if not that for ego, if not for just psychological purposes, we wouldn't examine them. If you want to study Greek, why are we giving you post UTME? We have enough more spaces in the university than those who apply. Even if you score 0, you have forgotten that I've told you that what qualified that person for the university are the 5 O-level credits that have been assessed over 3 years before coming to a qualification. One chance exam cannot be an adequate representation of the ability of a candidate. If you are not careful, you run into sampling error.
But it's also a test of knowledge,
as it were. My brother, in assessment, the purpose of an examination determines the use to which you put that examination. Do you get the point? You don't set a question for one purpose. And then, let me give you a more practical example. The Nigerian police recruits 1,000, if you like, men into the police force every year. We conduct their examination. 15,000, for instance, applied this year. Then they took number 1 to 1,000, and they said that's it for this year. Next year, they are still going to advertise. Somebody says, why can't they use the one they used last year? Because those who took the exam last year, another group of people are going to apply along with them. They will remain where they were, because they will even be unfortunate that more than 1,000 will still score over and above them. Do you get the point I'm making? So the point is that it is the purpose of the examination. The purpose of the examination is to place them. It's not to measure their ability. Even the question, the type of question we ask them, is not to measure what they have internalized. Do you get the point? It is to measure their understanding of certain things. And more often than not, these are not the issues that schools at WAEC or NECO is testing. So what I'm saying in effect is that purpose of examination determines the use for which that examination is used. UTME is not meant as an achievement test, and you will be wrong to think simply because somebody score. You have even forgotten that this boy that you said score 250, or you said score 140. This boy will go to the university and will make a first class in physics. This boy that you claim had 140. Because this boy is very good in physics. But physics is 1/4 of the exam that he took. If he manages to get to university where he's facing physics alone, you now produce a first class candidate in physics. So some of these things, you are just mixing oranges with apple, and people who don't know about issues are commenting. The fact that somebody scores low in UTME does not represent the whole totality of that person.
Well, Professor, I agree with you, but if a student passed WAEC, you know, it shouldn't have any problem passing JAMB.
Have you forgotten that there are people who have A1 in one subject in WASC and they have F9 in another subject?
But we talk about subject combination. For example, when I put in to study mass communication, I didn't write biology. Yes. I chose, the subject I wrote, you know, the subject I sat for were arts courses. Yes. You know, CRS, government,
okay. You said CRS.
English, not even mathematics.
Oh, wait. You said CRS. What if I'm unfortunate that I'm not a Christian, and I study CRS, and you learn your CRS not only in the school, you learn it at home because you are a Christian, you learn it in the church because you are a Christian. I'm a Muslim who I'm attending Baptist school, and I take CRS with you. In examination, there is the validity. You take so many things into consideration. Somebody whose father is a mechanic and is studying mechanical engineering, if you are unfortunate and you said some question and you say that person had A in that subject, when he is living and sleeping with vehicles every day. So there are issues, there are the issue is beyond what you just see and label. My brother, the truth of it is that please, let people come and learn what we are doing. Let people trust us that we are doing the right thing. And if they are not satisfied with us, let them take their job. Do you get the point? We will do it to the best of our ability because the country entrusts it with us. You must trust us with the ability to determine what is good, not somebody who is just waking up from the wrong side of his bed and who had not thought about the issue, then making comments about issue that is least qualified to dabble into.
Well, Professor, since you became the registrar, like I said in my introduction, that we've seen some reforms, and one of such is CAPS, Central Admissions Processing System, which is meant to address admission racketeering. But how well with this? Very,
very well. We are doing very well. And the institutions are coping, and CAPS is a transparent instrument that nobody in any of, and that's why some people are trying to go outside it, because they know that you can't cheat during. If any candidate is not admitted to any university, whether public, private, anything, and he or she is aware, is conscious, is convinced that he ought to be, let him apply to us. We will show him the ranking, and we will show, and if there is any misplacement of justice, we will redress it. That's why we are there. But the issue is that people are just lamenting. You see, with CAPS, you cannot, if you want to take somebody that is less qualified or that does not follow the rules, there is no way. Even if you are private university will determine their parameter and say these are the parameter. Once they give us the parameter, the rest is the duty of JAMB. That is, we watch, and if they admit a wrong person, we will tell them you have not followed your criteria. I thank you very much.
Well, many thanks, JAMB Registrar, Professor Is-haq Oloyede. Maybe subsequently, if we have the opportunity to do this, because there are still further questions we would like to take you on. So we need your word that we have this opportunity again.
I can promise you that whenever I'm a son of the soil. Anytime I'm around, you can always call on me. And
okay. Well, Professor Is-haq Oloyede has given us his word. So maybe some other time we have another opportunity to do this better. So that's the show this morning. Many thanks for watching. Till next week, when we bring to your film pleasure another eminent personality, I say to you, stay safe and stay out of trouble. Bye for now.